The first day of legal tampering for the New York Jets is almost in the books. And well, they've gone out, they've made some big moves. Jamen Sherwood, we broke that down last night. Justin Fields is now a New York Jet. Tony Adams is returning to the Jets. Brandon Stevens is a New York Jet. A lot of news to get into, and we'll cover it and much more. All coming up here on a Monday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, joined by our guy Nick Faria, and well, it's a free agent frenzy.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. I appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash the like button and you are subscribed to the channel on your way into the building. It's completely free, and it helps us grow significantly here on the program. First day of what feels like first day of legal tampering is almost in the books, and the Jets, they went out. They made some big news. They made some big moves. They got their quarterback, Justin Fields. They brought back Tony Adams. They signed cornerback Brandon Stevens, and certainly expect the Jets to be active in the next few days as well on the free agent market. Appreciate you sticking with me. Make sure you smash the like button. You are subscribed to the channel. A ton of free agent news, a ton of free agent shows coming up. So if you're new, make sure you smash the like and make sure you are subscribed. That's the free way to help us grow on the channel. The paid way helps us grow just as much as getting in on our membership raffle. Every membership gifted will get you a ticket into our raffle, a Winkerbet signed jersey, a Darrelle Revis signed photo, an Altoon signed photo, a Keyshawn Johnson signed photo, a Jericho Cotchery signed photo, a free item from our merch store, channel emoji, among the prizes we're giving away this month. If you want to get in on our raffle, you could do so. Every $2.99 super chat will get you a ticket along with every single gifted membership. Like I said, can't thank you guys enough for all your support here on the show, but let's bring on our guest for today's show, Jets beat reporter for Athlon Sports. It's our guy, Nick Faria, who graces us with his presence on the program. Nick, how you doing?
How's everything going, Connor? Great to be back on.
Doing well. Super great to have you here. Obviously, you're an Eagles fan, so it's tough for you probably seeing Milton Williams walk to the Jets' division rival, New England Patriots, on the largest deal in Patriots history. But let's shift our focus over to the Jets now, Nick. The news that came out last night. I'm going to kind of start with what happened last night and work ourselves all the way to the current. Jets re-signed Jamen Sherwood. Some viewed it as a deal that needed to be done, and that was my vision with it overall. Jamen Sherwood is someone who the Jets drafted in the 5th round. I understand he wasn't a draft pick by this new regime. However, Darren Mugier and Glenn at the Combine, they said they're going to try to do their best to retain young talent, and I think that's what they did by bringing back 25-year-old Jamen Sherwood on a 3-year deal with $30 million in guaranteed, ultimately worth up to $45 million. Finished with the team high of 158 tackles last season, so really, really solid season for Jamen Sherwood, was the team MVP. Ultimately bring him back. How do you view that contract for the Jets? Do you think it was a bit of an overpay, or do you think it needed to get done?
No, I don't think it's an overpay at all. And the one thing that I think people misunderstand when it comes to contracts like these, the easiest way to look at a contract, and I think the most foolish way to look at a contract, is to simply say, oh, 3 years, $45 million. Well, that means he's being paid $15 million per year against the cap. That's not what that means, though. You have to look at what the cap hit is going to be year over year. And if you look at the cap hit for Jamen Sherwood, it's very manageable. This year, he's only counting $5 million against the cap. Next year, he's coming out to just $11 million. And then there's an out in the contract where they could release him and save, I think it was $3 or $5 million at this stage. So this idea that the Jets overpaid for Jamen Sherwood, I think is misguided. First off, you need two quality linebackers up the middle to handle a top 5 defense. You saw that last year with some of the better defenses in football, whether it was the Baltimore Ravens, whether it was the Philadelphia Eagles, even the San Francisco 49ers. We saw the drop-off that they had when they didn't have their collection of linebackers starting for them throughout the year. So C.J. Mosley, I don't think was going to be that guy this upcoming season. He's older. He's coming off of severe injuries. There's obviously concerns there that he may even potentially retire. If that's the case, even with him coming back, you still need a quality guy that you can trust to be an every down linebacker. And Jamen Sherwood showed that he could be that guy. as president of the fan club, I'm thrilled. I think this is the go-to move the Jets needed to make. This is the move they could not afford to let Jamen Sherwood walk in free agency. This is the deal they needed to, and it's a pretty friendly one, a team-friendly one at that, where he's not counting some exuberant cost against the.
Now, Nick, when you look at the Jets linebacker room overall, you have Quincy Williams and you have Jamen Sherwood. So it's easy to say both of those guys, 1,000%, are very, very solid linebackers, but it's easy to look at both those guys and say, well, those are two really, really light linebackers. Could you see the Jets, Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilkes, Darren Muji, trying to beef up the linebacker room, whether it's, over the next few days in free agency? We just saw Dre Greenlaw sign with the Broncos, so he's a top linebacker who's technically off the board now. But whether it's through free agency or the draft, could you see the Jets trying to beef up the overall linebacker room?
I think there's a possibility that happens. However, if we're being frank, I don't think it will. I think if the Jets are smart, they're looking to re-sign Quincy Williams probably after the Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson extensions come down. There's a few players they're going to have to make a decision on. It would just be foolish to let a player like Quincy Williams walk when he's clearly become one of the better linebackers in football. Not to say that we know the exact cost of what it's going to be. If it's somewhere around $20 million, I think they kind of try to walk it back. But by and large, if you're the Jets, you want to make sure that you can keep most of this great talent on the roster. And at the top of the list is Quincy Williams for sure.
Now, Nick, the big news that came out earlier today, the Jets' first official out-of-house free agent signing, that was quarterback Justin Fields. The fan base was pretty much split when it came to Fields. A lot of people really, really wanted him. I was pretty much in that boat that he's the number one option. The fact that he's 26 years old, has a lot of upside. You can shift over to a more run-heavy offense. I'm just, people are obviously going to talk about the Breece Hall, Justin Fields backfield. I'm thinking of the Braylon Allen, Justin Fields backfield, where you have the power back in Braylon Allen, and then you have the speedster who you can run on the outside on the read option with in Justin Fields. Like that 3rd and 1, Nick, during the season is just going to be so fun to watch. It's going to be a nightmare for opposing defenses. Jets ultimately get him in the building for what some people would view as an overpay, 2-year, $40 million contract with $30 million guaranteed. Look, the options weren't all that appealing for me. Like I said, Justin Fields was my number one option for this team. How do you view this move for the Jets? Was it an overpay, and do you think he's the clear-cut day one starter? Do you think there's going to be any sort of battle, or he's just going to get handed that job on a silver platter?
Well, I will say if you're the Jets, I actually wrote an article about this on Athlon Sports. So I make sure everyone checks it out. But I kind of sell this because it's two-pronged. First off, Justin Fields is not signing that contract, a 2-year deal with the Jets, close to, $15-20 million per year. Mm-hmm. He's not signing that deal to be in a quarterback competition. He's going to be QB1. I think that's a safe bet. The Jets can openly say, oh, we're competing. We'll have a quarterback battle. But by and large, we know that Justin Fields is going to be the starter week 1 in 2025. They wouldn't give him that kind of contract, those kind of guarantees, if that wasn't going to be the case. Now, that's the first part. The second part is that we clearly see what the Jets view this current quarterback draft class. I said at the Combine, if the Jets fell in love with a guy, whether it was Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or Jackson Dart, if they fell in love with any of these guys, Justin Fields would not make a lot of sense. Marcus Mariota would make a lot of sense. But borderline backup to low average starter would make a lot of sense. Guys with low ceilings would make a lot of sense. But it's clear that they didn't like any of them. It's clear that they didn't fall in love with Dart, Sanders, or Ward to this point. And if you're not going to fall in love with a quarterback like that, then you're not taking one in the first round. And if you're not taking one in the first round, you want to make sure that you have a quality veteran on the roster to start right away. Now, this could potentially and probably mean that the team will draft one with the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round picks that they have accumulated. But at the same time, I don't think the expectations here are anything less but a starter for Justin Fields.
Nick, Brandon Stevens was a signing that kind of came out of left field for the Jets just a few hours ago. It was a cornerback, former 3rd-round pick with the Ravens in 2021. Coming off a down season, most importantly, something I want to keep in mind when he came into the league, he converted from a safety into a cornerback. Now, the Jets need a lot of safety depth, so maybe he's a guy who could be a corner and then also provide some depth at the safety position. Ultimately, though, coming off a down season, the Jets signed him to a 3-year deal worth up to $36 million. honestly, among the few signings we've seen from Darren Mushi this far, this is probably my least favorite one. I just don't get it. Paying someone $36 million who, yes, he has talent, but hasn't really shown that at the NFL level. For me, this is Aaron Glenn looking at this guy and seeing he has talent and gambling on his potential.
If there's a coaching staff that deserves the benefit of the doubt when it comes to secondary play, and I will say only secondary play,
Yeah.
it's certainly the New York Jets. The Jets have done a remarkable job of developing talent in the secondary. Quantez Stiggers look pretty solid at times, playing in different spurts throughout the 2024 season. They've developed Sauce Gardner into an all-pro. Michael Carter was a fifth-round pick, and now he's one of the best nickel cornerbacks in the National Football League. They know what they're doing at the cornerback position. They know how to develop them. Aaron Glenn understands the quarterback position and understands ones with high ceilings and how to get the most out of them. If I look at the Jets right now, there's going to be questions about the Brandon Stevens signing. I don't think those questions are really necessary, though, because if there's one position group you don't have to worry about, it's cornerback. They need to figure out who else is going to be rushing the passer from defensive tackle in the edge rush. They need to figure out who's going to be their right tackle now that Morgan Moses is gone to the New England Patriots. And they need to figure out a number 2 wide receiver opposite Garrett Wilson. Corner with Brandon Stevens, who's a serviceable guy. He's not DJ Reed, but he's a serviceable starter. For 3 years, $10 million, I think the Jets would sign up for that no problem.
Now, Nick, Tony Adams, another safety with his team last year, bring him back on the ROFA tender. He was a restricted free agent, so the Jets had the opportunity to go out and match every offer that he received on the open market. An undrafted free agent the Jets signed in 2022, 26 years old, had 11 starts with the Jets last year in 15 games, a 67.5 coverage grade from PFF, played over 50% of the Jets' defensive snaps. Selfishly, I'm a little happier I get another year out of my another year of use out of my Tony Adams jersey. But again, he's someone who, let's not guarantee him a starting job on the Jets team this year, but certainly he's someone who could provide depth in a safety room where a lot of guys are free agents. Chuck Clark, Ashton Davis, Isaiah Oliver. He might be one of those only guys to come back, and maybe he's that depth piece while you maybe hunt for a bigger name in free agency like a Javon Holland, a Justin Reed, a Justin Simmons, and also build through the draft. How do you view this tender of Tony Adams for the Jets?
Yeah, exactly the same as you do, Connor. I think this is a very solid move for the Jets. He's not going to cost a lot. But you need depth. You need guys that understand what it takes to be a New York Jet, understand the losing, but also someone who's got some talent there. Tony Adams is an undrafted free agent to being a starter, an every down starter for the Jets is remarkable what they were able to do in the previous regime. And the previous regime got a lot of stuff wrong. They also got some stuff right, and the development of undrafted free agents is certainly one of them. Tony Adams coming back this season, no-brainer move. They need more depth at the safety position, someone who understands defenses, particularly successful in zone defensive schemes. This is a very smart move for the franchise, a very smart move for Tony Adams, and just being able to continue some continuity in the back end.
Now, Nick, Morgan Moses is someone the Jets lost out on. We've been talking about him on here, you and I, for the past few weeks. We both thought it was the right thing for the Jets to bring back Morgan Moses on more of a team-friendly deal. He was the veteran-type guy. I'm looking now at what he got from the Patriots, and that's an overpay in my eyes. A 3-year deal, $21 million for someone who's been injury-prone, like we spoke about. He's played through those injuries. Still, though, someone who's older than 30. He's over 30 years old, someone who's dealt with injury concerns the past few years. A 3-year deal, $21 million. That's a little lucrative for me when it comes to Morgan Moses. I see you guys talking in the chat about the whole Diana Rossini thing yesterday, the Patriots illegally tampering with Morgan Moses. Could you touch on any of the illegally tampering rumors along with what does this deal look like?
Listen, let's not be Giants fans here who are suddenly upset over certain players signing 4 hours into free agency. There's no reason for that. It certainly might have been, leading to that, but every player and every organization is doing this. Justin Fields signed a contract 3 hours into free agency. Are you sure? Are you telling me that the Jets didn't talk to Justin Fields' representation before the 12 o'clock window? Of course not. Let's stop with that charade. Yeah. But Connor, I do agree with you. I think this is an overpay. Morgan Moses is a great right tackle considering and understanding the variables that he has. He's an Ironman. He plays through injuries. He's 34 years old. You mean to tell me that the Jets should have given a 3-year contract and played, or potentially would have had on the roster, a 37-year-old Morgan Moses? I'm sorry, that's not proper roster management. I have absolutely no issue with the job the Jets have done so far in day one of free agency. I would call it a B plus A if I were to grade it. They got their quarterback that they feel confident enough to start week one, and then you've got a quality starting cornerback on the back end. You were able to bring back a quality starting safety. Now, the job is not done. Making sure that that's very clear. The job is not done. They have a lot of holes still to fill. Right tackle now becomes a massive need. They need another receiver, like I said. They need more edge rush help. But to start, this is a really solid start for the Jets. This isn't like last year where they essentially threw in a couple of $10, $15 million deals to Tyrod and John Simpson and Javon Kinlaw and all these guys in a row. These are quality contracts that go into players with high upside. And that's all you can ask for in a free agent pool that's pretty relatively weak overall.
Yeah, and Nick, one more thing I just want to get off my chest quickly. I don't even want to waste time on it. The contracts that Javon Kinlaw and Hassan Reddick received today, talk about
ludicrous.
Just a detriment to the NFL. The fact that those players are getting paid that much money. Hassan Reddick, who couldn't record a single sack for the Jets last season, the only defensive lineman with over 250 snaps who did not log a sack last season. What was it? 1 year, $14 million, I think is what I saw from
one year over 12, whatever that is.
Something crazy. Give me a break. Javon Kinlaw and Hassan Reddick getting paid that much. I think Kinlaw was like 4 for 63 or
3 for 45 or something like that.
3 for 40, something crazy like that. So that's embarrassing to the NFL. It's embarrassing to the Commanders. It's embarrassing to the Buccaneers, Nick.
I'm pretty happy. I'll just sit there and say
you're a Hassan Reddick fan.
First off, so listen, with the Hassan Reddick case, Philadelphia didn't want to pay him $25 million. That's all Hassan Reddick could talk about. He wanted to be paid his worth. He felt his worth was well over, 25 million a particular year. The Jets didn't want to pay him. So he essentially said, well, then I'm not going to play. And essentially everyone has just been pushed off to the brink and they were in a standstill. Well, Hassan Reddick is not making $25 million this year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that he's 30 years old, he's making half of that money. So it's very clear that that was a loss for Hassan Reddick. I would argue more so for the Jets, more so than the Jets, because the Jets have a collection of young edge rushers. There still needs to be some addressing at that position, particularly because Jermaine Johnson is coming off an Achilles injury, but they have a collection of edge rushers. Hassan Reddick isn't getting any younger, and he is now well past the time where he's going to be paid $25 million. Him sitting out completely tanked his market, and as the case for Javon Kinlaw, Hassan Reddick has shown that when healthy, when fully motivated, he can be one of the best pass rushers in the National Football League. That's without question. He was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in 2022. 4 consecutive years of 10-plus sacks for 3 different teams. That doesn't just happen to bad players. He's a good edge rusher. What has Javon Kinlaw done in his career? He's done nothing. He's done nothing to warrant a 3-year, $45 million contract like he got with the Washington Commanders. And the Washington Commanders had a really, really good defensive tackle in Jonathan Allen, and they released him. To replace a guy like Jonathan Allen and bring in Javon Kinlaw, to me, one of the funniest moves of day one, because it's Washington, and it just seems like no matter what they do. I mean, this is a team that's supposed to be competing in the NFC East now with the Eagles. It's supposed to be competing for the NFC title now in years to come. And then they make moves like this. And again, it might work out, but if it's the Javon Kinlaw we saw in San Francisco, if it's the Javon Kinlaw we saw with the Jets, chances are this is going to be a massive, massive blow to Washington. And I am perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. 1,000%. Appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash the like button and you are subscribed to the channel. It's completely free. Helps us grow significantly. The paid way to support the show, we'll throw the ticker back on down below. Get in our membership raffle. Every membership or $2.99 super chat will get you a ticket into our raffle. Prizes include a Wayne Corbett signed jersey, Darrell Revis signed photo, Altoon signed photo, Keyshawn Johnson signed photo, Jericho Cotchery signed photo, free item from our merch store, channel emoji. Get in on that. The more tickets you have, the better chance you win. Like I said, leaderboard on down below. Appreciate you sticking with us. About 10 more minutes left with Nick. Then we have another special guest joining us, so stay tuned. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get to those. Call in the show. Pin comment at the top. Robert C. comes in after signing Justin Fields. Should the Jets draft Tyler Warren, a wide receiver, offensive/defensive line, or secondary? Nick, fire away.
TBD. TBD. We have no idea what they're going to do. This is day one. We've got what? 40 days, 50 days until the NFL draft? Just because
like 4 legit days of in the weeds of free agency.
Day one. These contracts are not over yet. There's going to be free agent signings throughout the offseason. So I will say, and I think this is probably the most important thing, people need to be patient. They figured out the quarterback position. They figured out the cornerback position. Now it's about making sure you have the right tackle, having the receiver, making sure you're solid at tight end, all these other things. We don't know what their biggest question mark is going to be heading into draft day. We can hypothesize. That they're going to need another offensive weapon. We can hypothesize that they will need a right tackle, but we don't know yet. So I'm not going to – it's a cop-out, but I don't want to answer this question right now, day one of free agency, when so many different things could happen over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I get it, 1,000%. Here's the thing. I really, really like Tyler Warren, and I think if he's the tight end, you'd take him at 7 because he's someone who's not just a standard tight end. I'm tired of people saying that tight end's not a premium position anymore. You can't take it in the first round. He's more than a tight end. He's a field stretcher. He could be your pass catcher number 2, number 3 type guy. That's what I mean. He's more than just a tight end, provides depth outside of the tight end position. I mean, 6'6", 261 pounds, yak machine. I'm a huge Tyler Warren fan. I think this is a scenario where you go Tyler Warren or best player available. I also like Ted McMillan from Arizona State. I'm a big Emeka Ibuka fan, so just don't mess the pick up. That's my advice.
Don't mess it. That's the goal. You go best available. I will say, maybe it's the Howard Roseman disciple in me. I'm not taking a tight end with the 7th overall pick. That's horrible value. I'm not taking a running back with the 7th overall pick. That is ridiculously horrible value. If I'm the Jets and I need defensive tackle help, I'm taking a D tackle. That's the best available. Or an edge rusher. That's the best available. As you know, I don't even want a safety at that point. But if it's a receiver, a defensive lineman, or even a right tackle, then I think the Jets can come away saying, hey, we got a great pick here. This is our guy. We feel really confident about the stepping stone to future success for the organization. So it's not that I disagree. I just don't trust a tight end at 7. I'll never see the value in that.
Now, Nick, my question to you, since it's such a large position of need, for lack of a better term, for the Jets, how do they address it? Is it trying to bring back Tyler Conklin because he's going to command a multi-year deal? A guy like Juwan Johnson, who the Jets have constantly been linked to, is going to command a multi-year deal. I think you need to add at least 2 or 3 tight ends this offseason, Nick.
I don't think they need to add a couple tight ends. I don't, because the tight end position, while important, you can run an offensive system without a quality number 1 guy. I mean, the Eagles for most of the season operated with Grant Calcaterra as their starting tight end because Dallas Goedert was lost for a good month and a half. Not to say that it's not an important position. You obviously want to make sure you can operate over the middle of the field. But whether it's Juwan Johnson, Evan Ingram, Gerald Everett, there are guys here that you can operate with and be successful with. I'm not going to sit here and say that tight end needs to be, ignored. But when it comes to the grand scheme of value, of finding a position of value, would you rather the Jets take a number 2 wide receiver that pairs well with Garrett Wilson, or a tight end who can be a serviceable starter? Most teams nowadays are going to go with that second receiver.
Now, Nick, Dallas Goedert, the Eagles, you spoke about him a little while. We heard a report from Josina Anderson that the Eagles yesterday are at least hoping to get a 4th-round pick in exchange for him. And I saw that report right after I went on last night, and I was like, 4th-round pick, I look at that. I look at the tight ends you most likely could get in the 4th round in this year's draft, and you're looking at maybe a Terrence Ferguson type guy, a Luke Lachey, Harold Fann, and Elijah Arroyo. Those premium guys probably won't even be on the board by the time the Jets are on the clock in the 4th round. Do you expect the Jets to be on the Dallas Goedert trade talks?
I'm sure they will. The difficult part with Goedert is he's going to want an extension. I think he's making roughly around $10, $11 million this year. He's going to be a free agent next year. If you are trading for Goedert, you need to make sure that you have a contract extension ready to go for him. And then, probably the most important thing, you better make sure you have a quality tight end backing him up because he has battled injuries for the last 4 years in the middle of the season, late in the year, where he has not been healthy for a full 17 games. When he is healthy, He's a top tight end in football. He really is such a great blocker, such a great pass catcher, really strong with the ball in his hands, but he can't stay healthy. And that's a big reason why Philadelphia is essentially saying, listen, do we want to pay this guy $13 million at 30 years old? Probably not. Let's see if anyone else is willing to take him before we move on to one of the best draft classes ever at the tight end position.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Like I said, smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel, free. Helps us grow significantly. Follow Nick on Twitter at Nick_Faria1720. Did I get it right there, Nick? Did I miss an underscore? There we go. Give Nick a follow. I threw the link to his article on Justin Fields earlier today in the chat, so check that out. Nick always does great work for Athlon Sports. About 4 minutes left with him. Then we have another special guest joining us, so keep the questions flowing. A few more with Nick, then I'll stay on. I'll answer the rest. Luppy comes in, says, well, it's a solid move, but not my first choice. Would have liked Jameis Winston, but now it's time to jet up. Nick, this is referring to the Justin Fields signing. For Luppy is one of a few Jameis Winston fans in the Jet fan base. I'd rather pay Justin Fields that price than pay Jameis Winston $7-8 million to go out there and compete for the job. I love Jameis, but I go with the upside and I gamble on the potential.
Yeah, of course. And to be quite honest, between choosing Justin Fields or Jameis Winston, okay, great. You're choosing between C-level quarterbacks. It's it's a matter of preference at this point. It's difficult to determine, but Connor, I think you're right. They're going for upside here. If Justin Fields can figure it out and finally become a legitimate passer at the quarterback position, then this is a great move for the Jets. I have my doubts. I haven't seen anything from the last 4 years of him playing quarterback at the NFL level that he can be a dependable passer for a team and help win games for an organization. I haven't seen it. I've seen it with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, very similar to Justin Fields, was a very flawed passer coming out of college. And after their first couple of years, very flawed passers. But Jalen Hurts developed into a great pocket passer. He's actually one of the highest graded pocket passers in the National Football League now. Have we seen that with Justin Fields? Absolutely not. Not even close. So it's one of the many reasons why I am concerned, or at least have doubts, that he can ever become something that he isn't right now.
We'll end with this one here from Alan for you, Nick. What the heck is a Brandon Stephens? Nick, I know a lot of Jet fans are going to be flustered. The fact that they're paying someone who's coming off a down year, 3 years, $36 million contract, someone who's not an elite cornerback too. What is his role? I know we touched on it a little earlier, but what does his role exactly look like? Could he be a special teams guy who provides you some depth at safety potentially, and then also gives you something to work with at the cornerback position? What does his role look like? Is he the true CB2 entering 2025? I hope that's not the case.
To use my Spanish heritage, ¿por qué no los dos? Why not both? I mean, seriously, like Brandon Stephens, it's not that he was bad. It's just that he had a down year. And people have had down years all the time and still be able to produce at a high level. There were questions about DJ Reed when he first signed with the Jets, and he became a really, really solid starting cornerback for New York in these last 3 years. So just because this signing may not be what everyone expected or what everyone envisioned, doesn't mean it's not going to be a good one. I think everyone, again, needs to stay patient, wait to see what this entire piece looks like, wait to see what the entire free agent pool looks like. Listen, if it's Brandon Stephens and the Jets bring in Javon Holland, I'm sure most people, including our friend Alan here, will be at least a little bit more excited about what the Jets secondary is going to look like next season. So we have no idea. This is still a very early process. There is still a lot of big-time names available on the open market. It's just a matter of being patient at this point for the Jets when it comes to a signing like Stephens. Remember, people were up in arms when John Simpson was signed last year to a 2-year contract. And Simpson was by far the best free agent signing the Jets had. Quality starting guard, really good work against the run and pass. Why can't that be the case here?
Nick, appreciate you hopping on as always. Appreciate your time. Nick will be joining us again next Monday, every single Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nick, you're the best. Can't thank you enough. Got any final thoughts you want to share with the crowd?
Patience, patience, patience. Day one, we got a long way to go before the NFL draft.
Nick, have a great night, brother.
See ya.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Faria of Athlon Sports checking in here on the program. Shoot him a follow at Nick_Faria1720. One of the best Jets beat reporters you will find on the internet. Can't thank you guys enough for all your support. We got another special guest joining us right now. So 93 of you guys watching here on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button and you are subscribed to the channel. 93 of you watching and only 47 likes. Math's not mathing, guys. Hit the like button. Free helps us grow significantly. Keep the questions flowing. We'll get to those. Super chats cut the line immediately. Before we bring on our other special guest, Dick Chimney's Burner comes in with 5 gifted memberships. Hit it, AG.
Here's what I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Damn straight, AG. 5 names to read from Dick Chimney's Burner. Rat, Dage Energy, Jets Mess, Gator McCluskey, Dan Philcox are all members. Thanks to Dick Chimney's Burner. That is 5 raffle tickets for you. Appreciate your support. As always, every membership gifted will get you a ticket into our raffle. Every $2.99 super chat as well. Can't thank you enough for all your support. Keep the memberships flowing. Great way to help us grow the show. Joining us right now, the host of the Flight Deck podcast, formerly of CBS, formerly of SNY, formerly of the New York Post. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Brown Radio joining us. Jake, what's going on?
I had to follow another fellow Hofstra up, and Nick Faria, and then Dick Chimney's Burner. What a sequence of events I'm following up here. I sound like Batman after a weekend in New York. I'm Christian Bale, but we're hanging in there. Thanks for having me.
Nick, great to Jake, excuse me, mixing up the Hofstra.
Call me Nick, it's fine.
Jake, it's great to have you on as always. And I haven't checked the Mets score in a little, but Griffin Canning was holding their own. He's making a case potentially to maybe get in the starting rotation. But we're here to talk Jets, Jake, and I want to get your thoughts right away on this Justin Fields signing. Obviously, I spoke to you on your podcast when the Jets first moved on from Justin Fields. We were going back and forth. We both felt it was pretty much the right move. What is your reaction to this Fields signing? Jake? Going once, going twice, Jake. Jake? Looks like we lost Jake here. He'll probably be rejoining us. Jake Brown, Jets Flight Club podcast host. He's joining us here on the program, but it looks like he just froze. So he's moving backstage though. Jake, you there?
Yeah, so it was connected to like the clubhouse Wi-Fi, even though that's like 800 feet away and not the home Wi-Fi for the first time ever. So that's why I was frozen. You were lagging. I wanted Justin Field. Like, he was the guy I pointed to. Short-term deal, a prove-it deal, a guy that the Jets probably should have drafted over Zach Wilson in 2021. Funny that they got 2021 picks in the cornerback, who was a third-round pick in 2021, and Justin Fields. Listen, I think he's on a prove-it deal. And I think in a modern offense with Tanner Engstrand's offense, coming from the Lions, coming with a chip on his shoulder, he's making a lot of guaranteed money in this deal, but that's a normal going rate for quarterbacks now. I don't think it's an insane number considering you're paying Aaron Rodgers to leave more than that money. So I think it's going to work. I think they needed a mobile quarterback, a guy that had a chip on his shoulder. He obviously got the short end of the stick with the Steelers. Not saying he lit it up, but he was winning games for the Steelers. The team was winning. He was playing mistake-free football. And for him, if he could just be mistake-free and not fumble when he's running with the ball, or, avoid getting a hit, avoid the concussions as a running quarterback, that's hard to do. This was a no-brainer for me. You have him. You got Tyrod Taylor. You got Jordan Travis. I think the quarterback room is now, obviously there'll maybe be a practice squad guy you get later on, but I think the quarterback room is now set, and the Jets could, get their minds off, the biggest position in the sport.
Overall, Jake, if you had to grade day one of Jets free agency, what grade would you give it? They went out, they got their quarterback. You can even count the extension last night, extending Jamen Sherwood, inking him to a 3-year deal worth up to $45 million, $30 million guaranteed. You bring in now cornerback 2, it's being said, and Brandon Stevens. So a lot of moves made for the Jets. They even extended Tony Adams. They tendered Tony Adams for $3.2 million guaranteed in 2025. If you had to put a grade on today, Jake, what would you give it?
I'd say a B+, because I think quarterback's most important. Now, listen, the cornerback, Stevens, I'm not that excited for him, but everyone's saying you should have just paid DJ Reed. DJ Reed made it clear he did not want to be here. Let's be serious. And I don't know if it was disagreements with other guys in that defense, but for him to say what he said weeks before the season ended showed you he did not want to be a New York Jet. And how can you blame a guy going to Detroit and having a chance at a championship? He doesn't have a chance for a championship here. Let's be serious. The Jets are winning a championship in 2025. Can they make the playoffs? Maybe, but that's why they weren't going to pay DJ Reed. He didn't want to be here. I think because they got their starting quarterback, I give them a B plus. And they brought guys back. You know, Jamen Sherwood was like an unsung hero of that team, and you know he made every tackle in sight, and no one had heard of him a couple of years ago. So I think getting Sherwood back, paying him, getting your quarterback, getting a cornerback, even if you don't like him that much, they still got a lot of work to do. Listen, I want a receiver bad. You know, I think they could still get one. I think they badly need, you know, the other thing about I didn't mention with Justin Fields, the pairing with Garrett Wilson is, you know, they're best friends. I mean, this is the guy he threw to in college. I mean, this is what you want. You know, the Knicks tried it with the Villanova guys. Now the Jets got the Ohio State combo, and I don't think that should get overlooked. I'm excited about that, but I'll give him a B plus.
I think a B plus is a fair grade because, like you said, you went out, you got the cornerback. I would probably be in that same B plus range. I would have liked to seen some sort of motion at the tight end position, whether it's trying to pay Juwan Johnson, extending a guy like Tyler Conklin. You laid out some of the positions of need there. You mentioned wide receiver, you mentioned tight end. Are there any names you're eyeing at those specific position rooms for the Jets to try to bring in here over the next few days?
Well, I agree, tight end, and I do like Juwan Johnson. Again, this is day one, so I think moves are definitely coming. Obviously, the first day we're antsy, we want things to happen, but some of these are going to happen this week. Like Juwan Johnson, I think there's a realistic possibility they're going to get someone. I like him. I like someone like, I don't know, Brandon Cooks. I want like a speedy receiver. Now he has some injury problems. I'm not in love, but he's a name I got my eye on. Someone like, you know, another slot guy who might be cheap, a Josh Reynolds. Just trying to think of depth. I mean, they're not going to get a $30 million receiver, but I'm thinking of guys in that middle tier who they might get. And
Tyler Lockett, maybe, who was just released, veteran guy, 1 year, $8 million.
I love Tyler Lockett. The question is, does he got anything left in the tank? I think he does. But I love him, and I would take him on a 1 year deal for sure. So, yeah, I'd say, you know, those are kind of the names I'm targeting. I think it was smart that they let Devontae go. I mean, $29 million is a lot for a guy who was clearly here because of Aaron Rodgers. And now you make Garrett Wilson happy. So I don't think they need an A-list receiver, but I would love one of those B-list guys.
What I think they're going to do, Jake, at the wide receiver position is I think they're going to add a guy like a Tim Patrick is a name I've been talking a lot about. Has the connection to the Detroit coaching staff. Obviously, he's a name who's been linked to the Jets constantly. I wouldn't mind him. But again, he's someone you bring in for a couple $1 million as a wide receiver 4 type guy. I don't think you can rely on him for anything more than a low-end 3, a high-end wide receiver 4 type guy. Someone I would have really, really liked was Diami Brown, but he got paid by the Jaguars. I thought he was going to be in that like 1 year, $6 million range. I think he got 1 year, $10 million with the Jaguars today. So there's certainly names to look out for in free agency. Maybe a DeAndre Hopkins type guy. Darius Slayton's another one I was eyeing, but he got the extension with the Giants today. What I'd like the Jets to do is add 2 free agent wide receivers and then draft 2 guys, whether that's going with a Ted McMillan and a Emeka Egbuka in the first round, and then waiting till round 6 to take Nick Nash out of San Jose State, whose numbers were just absolutely insane this past season. I think you need to add 3 to 4 total wide receivers this offseason. That's where I am on the wide receiver room. I know there's a lot of concerns there. You guys have any questions for Jake and I, throw them in the chat. We'll get to those if you want to call into the show. You could do so with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Matt comes in. What safety do you guys think the Jets bring in? Well, Jake, they actually tendered Tony Adams today. There's the big names out on the safety market, the Justin Reeds, the Javon Hollands, the names we've heard linked to the Jets, even a Justin Simmons type guy. How do the Jets address this glaring safety need?
I like Justin Reed the best. You know, I think he's proven he's done it. You know, he's done it on a winning team, on a Super Bowl team. So he's at the top of my list. Julian Blackmon is another name out there, but I like Reed and Holland the best. You know, those are two, you know, it depends on how much they want to spend there, but those are the 2 guys that I'm going to target.
By the way, before we get any further, sorry, I meant to mention Rick Kent comes in with 5 more gifted members.
Can't wait.
Yes, sir, Bart. 5 names to read from Rick Kent, Phil, Mazel Tov, Morning Woody, Peter Castro, Bino. You are all members. Thanks to our guy Rick Kent. Rick, that is 5 more raffle tickets for you. Appreciate all your support here on the program. Look, I like Justin Reed too. I like the price. For example, Javon Holland is someone who you'd have to pay a little more than Justin Reed just because he's 25 years old, straight off his rookie deal. You're looking in that 3 years, $85-90 million range. But then you also get the bonus, Jacob. You're poaching him from a division rival, so you add that in there too. I really like Javon Holland. I think he has a lot of upside. Justin Simmons is a name I've heard a lot. I'm not into the Justin Simmons hype. Tackling was an absolute mess last season for Simmons. Right now, the names I'm looking at: Javon Holland, Justin Reed. I was really on Jeremy Chin because he had the connection to Steve Wilkes. He thrived when he was with him in Carolina, but ultimately Jeremy Chin got paid, so he's off the market now. So the Justin Reed, Javon Holland range I'm looking at while trying to draft a guy or two is where I am on the safety position.
They need winners. They need guys that are. They've had so many losers in this locker room and players that only know losing. Like Sauce Gardner talks all he wants, but he's been a loser. Let's be real. He's been a freaking loser on this team. It's not because of him, but they have these loser mentalities. Sauce tweeting out today, talking about himself when they added Stevens. They said, anyone who plays with me is better. This ain't about you, brother. It's not about you. I'm sick of these losing mindset players. And a guy like Reed has a Super Bowl ring. He's been with a team that's been to the top of the mountain multiple times. And if they want to change this culture, if they want to turn it around, they need proven players, but they need proven players with a ring on their finger, with, AFC championships, NFC championships in their mantle. And they don't have a lot of those. So that's what I want. You got the head coach that came from a team that's been winning. You got the defensive coordinator that's been coaching a million teams. Now give me players that have won. That's why I like someone like Reed. And when you target some of these free agents, go for the guys, even like a receiver, a lower end, a guy from a winning team, Demarcus Robinson. Now he's not great, but he won't cost you a lot. You can get him, you can draft someone, and you could sign someone bigger. And he comes from a program that's a winning team that's been to the playoffs, that's won playoff games. So I want winners, Connor. Who's the coach that said that? I want winners. I think it was Coach Green, former Arizona Cardinals coach. I think it was him. But they just need that mindset in this locker room, in this franchise, because it's losers from the top down to us as content creators. We're losers because they're losers, and we want to be winners, right?
For sure, 1,000%, Jake. Love the passion, love the fiery tirade there. Jimmy Jets comes in, get Olave for a 5th, and draft Smith in 2026. It's the Ohio State Jets. I'm going to focus on the Olave trade proposal. Look, I think if the Saints are going to go ahead and trade Olave, I think they're going to be looking for a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. And I'm going to be honest, I don't feel comfortable giving up a 2nd or a 3rd round pick for someone who's had a crazy amount of concussions his first few years in the league. At that point, again, I'd rather build through the draft and add a free agent or two. I'm not for giving up all those, a high-end day 2 pick for someone who's been riddled with injuries, and you don't know what he's going to look like next season.
He's never healthy. You don't want to go for guys with that long of an injury history. I would give maybe a 4th, but above that for a guy who's never on the field, I don't think it's worth it.
Allen comes in. I love Membu at 7, but he won't get there. Jake, where are you from an overall, what position do you want to address with the 7th overall pick? We're hearing about the tackles now. Armand Membu from Missouri is a name that's being tossed around. I think you go best player available, and I think you need to get someone who comes in and is a starter right away. I'm not for drafting someone for depth purposes. I'm not saying that's who Membu is. However, I would much rather lean towards a Tyler Warren. Even I'd go like a linebacker, a Jahad Campbell type guy before I tried pulling the trigger on an offensive lineman. I'm just not big on the O-line class in the 1st round.
I am leaning towards receiver or a pass rusher. I think they could use some help there. Obviously, Reddick, what do the Tampa Bay Bucks do? How do you give this fat ass
$14 million? $14 million. Yeah.
Fraud, lazy edge player like Hassan Reddick. How do you give him that much guaranteed money this early? This guy is going to have a field day. He's going to be at the club making it rain because he just earned money for doing nothing. I mean, what a life, doing nothing and making $12 million. So I go pass rusher after that crazy tangent I just went on, or receiver. The kid out of Arizona, McMillan. I think they gotta give Fields receivers. He comes from Chicago where he did not have a boatload of guys. He needs a tight end. He's got Garrett, but after Garrett, this receiving core, like we talked about, is so thin that get a speedy guy maybe in the first round. The Jets usually, I feel like, besides Garrett, sometimes they're hesitant early to get guys that high at receiver. But I think this is a year you got to kind of build this offense. That now that you lost Devontae, Xavier Gibson didn't really take that next step. Some of these young receivers didn't take that next step. That I'm not that comfortable just throwing them out there with a quarterback that's not great, a middle of the pack quarterback. So I'd say receiver or a pass rusher, whether that's a Graham Stewart out of Texas A&M, one of those guys. Warren is interesting. 7th pick tight end is tough for me. I think that's more like a day 2 pick, but I don't think any Jet fan, a lot of, especially the Brock Bowers fan club, would be that mad if they, took a tight end at 7. So receiver 1, pass rusher 2, tight end 3 would be my order of who I want.
Well, Jake, if the Jets do take Tyler Warren with the 7th overall pick, all the Bauer boys will just be comparing him to Brock Bowers for the entirety of his career. So that's not necessarily fair.
This is a team, though, that's been looking for a tight end since my guy Dustin Keller.
Yeah.
It's almost like
it's over a decade, yeah.
Let's just try it just for the heck of it to see if you can finally get a guy. And I like Tyler Conklin, but he didn't do enough to really be a starter. He's a great guy. He's a good player, but he didn't light up the box. Can we have a week where you have a tight end with 8 catches, 140 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and it's not like some crazy phenomenon? It feels like a Jets tight end hasn't had a day like that in a long time, and maybe he ends up being that guy.
For sure. Teresa comes in the chat, says, what are your thoughts about Morgan Moses? Won't be on the Jets this coming season. Jake, the Patriots ended up inking him to this 3-year, $21 million deal. I was talking about it with Nick earlier, and I said that's a bit of an overpay for a guy like Morgan Moses. We're talking about someone who's well into his 30s, who's dealt with injuries. I wanted him back, but more at that 1 year, $4 million, 1 year, $5 million type range, rather than giving this guy a multi-year deal for over $6 million a season. I think it's a little much. So ideally, I would have wanted him back, but looking at what he got, I don't regret the Jets moving on.
Yeah, I don't think it was worth it. He's a little older, some injury problems, not in love with him. The Jets need another offensive lineman, but when you look at this roster as a whole, I that's maybe one of their strengths. I mean, Tyron Smith's probably gone, but when you have Tipson, a healthy AVT, Fashanu, Simpson, they have a pretty good core in place where this is not like a massive overhaul off season for the offensive line, which feels like that's been the case the last couple of years. So I can live without Morgan Moses. I would hope that they could do better in replacing him than, getting a middle of the pack guy like Morgan Moses.
Jeffrey R comes in, says Dallas Goedert is out there. I was talking about this earlier with Nick, Jake, and so Dallas Goedert's really interesting because we heard from Josina Anderson yesterday that the Eagles are looking to get at best a 4th-round pick for him. That's crazy to me. I know he's dealt with injuries, but when he's on the field, he's a top tight end in this league. I look at that like the same exact thing I said to Nick. The tight end you're getting in the 4th round, I can tell you right now, aren't going to come in and make a greater impact than Dallas Goedert right away. I'd give up a 4th-round pick, maybe even a 3rd-round pick in a heartbeat if you get a guy in exchange like Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I'd walk a 4th-round pick to the airport for Dallas Goedert. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, this is, again, you want winner, proven track record. The guy's a winner. He's been to Super Bowls. That is the veteran presence you would love in this locker room on a team with a quarterback who could probably lean on a few veterans. Like Garrett Wilson for the Jets now is considered like a veteran on this offense when he's not really a veteran. So I would love Dallas Goedert. Make it happen.
Allen comes in. I would have re-signed Eccles at 2 years for $11 million. Now, Jake, he's someone unrestricted free agent, so he's free to sign anywhere. What do you think the Jets do with him? He's someone I thought could kind of potentially be a stopgap type guy for the CB2 job, but it's looking like he's walking. This is a move I don't get. 2 years, $8 million, 2 years, $11 million. Why not bring a guy like Brandon Eccles back?
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer for that price. I mean, some would argue that maybe he's even better than Brandon Stevens, if he got a chance to play. So
what he showed last year.
Yeah, I mean, at that price and what he did last year, I would definitely bring him back. I won't lose sleep if he's gone. I'm not in love with Brandon Eccles, but I think he played above his pay grade, and I like players that have a chip on their shoulder and play above their play grade. So I would sign Brandon Eccles back, but I don't think either of us are gonna not sleep later if Brandon Echols is not a Jet.
Certainly. Where were we in the chat here? Edward comes in with his 1 month member super chat. Who do you think to go pick at a right tackle? I think, Jake, it's a combination of maybe looking at a later round guy. Someone I like in free agency this year, Jedrick Wills is his name. He was a first round pick in 2020 by the Browns. You try to get something out of him there. What do you think the Jets do at right tackle? I think it's a combination of trying to get a guy in the draft, sign someone in free agency, maybe even experiment kicking AVT out to tackle, or he could be even a depth option. How do the Jets address the right tackle position?
That's a good name. I like Wills. Obviously, the Jets in the past in the draft were interested in Wills. There's not a lot of guys out there like a Trenton Brown, maybe. I would stay away from
Cam Robinson sign. He's an expensive one, though.
George Fent. We already know what he is. Cam, I believe, is still. I mean, Cam's going to cost you 18-20 million a year. Beecham would be cheap, but he's old. I don't know if you want to go. You just had Tyron Smith. I don't know if you want to go with a mid-30-year-old offensive lineman again. A lot of the guys that are out there are older. I think they're going with the draft. I think they're going to draft at least 2 or 3 offensive linemen. So I could see them one of the picks using on an offensive lineman.
Yeah, again, like you're looking at these free agent names, and I understand I said it was an overpay for Morgan Moses, but like you'd probably have to end up paying a Jedrick Wills $5-7 million a year. Like, do everything you can to pretty much keep Morgan Moses. It's in my eyes, it was just creating another unnecessary hole.
I don't want to use the 7th pick on an offensive lineman. I think we agree on that. Like, Fashanu was a good move. You're happy with that? Brock Bowers people, maybe not, but do not use it. The only way I see them in the first round taking an offensive lineman is if they do trade down, which I still think is in the cards. If they move to maybe the middle of the first round or later in the first round, but otherwise, do not on day one take an offensive lineman.
Jack comes in and says, what are we doing with Xavier Gibson this offseason? Jake, I don't think it's a sure thing that he's on the roster this coming season. I mean, he's someone who's pretty much showed value as a pure receiver other than the iconic 9-11 punt return. He's been a below average returner for this team. He's someone I would experience flat out cutting. I
agree. I was in the locker room that game, and he had people know I like to wear ice and chains. Mine more so from TJ Maxx and other cheap places I could get them. I remember staring him down and was blinded by that ice. And then I feel like he took the chain off and he's been non-existent since that moment. I mean, he's an okay player, but he hasn't developed a lot. And obviously change of quarterback, change of coordinators, change of coaches. There's been a lot of changes, and he's another, like I say, chip on your shoulder guy, smaller, probably always overlooked, especially at receiver. And he just hasn't done enough for me. So to me right now, he's, maybe 5th on the depth chart is your hope that you get 2 or 3 guys that are ahead of him. And unfortunately, there were times he was number 2 or 3 last season on the depth chart. So I agree. He's going to have to fight his way on this roster. And, I think he had to early on, and some of those other guys, had to fight their way on. So I agree. I could see them end up cutting him at some point.
Let's see. June, the GM, comes in. Says, I was talking to Jimmy Jeff, so I just want to pull it up, though. I'll grab Pitts for a 5th round pick over Dallas. I know the Kyle Pitts trade talk is heating up. You could get him for a 4th rounder. You could get him for a 5th rounder. I think they might be shopping Kyle Pitts, but I think you're looking at a 3rd or a 2nd rounder if you want to pick up the phone for Kyle Pitts. I don't think they're settling for a 5th or a 4th rounder when it comes to giving up Kyle Pitts.
I don't know why they would just give up on him that quickly, especially now the young quarterback in Penix. They would really have to get. I don't get selling that low on him right now. I still think he's got something left in the tank. I think people have said he's not the smartest guy in the room, that he's kind of dumb, but still, I think he's a big tight end. There's not a lot of big fellas like him out there. So if you can get him for a 5th, but I agree with you. There's no way they're just going to dump him for a 5th round pick. I'd rather take Goddard. Again, veteran proven player. Give me Goddard for a 4th over Kyle Pitts.
June, the GM, again, so far the Jets have been throwing money all over the place, but has the money gotten us much better? Like, what are you talking about throwing money all over the place? Like, they paid top dollar to get Justin Fields, and I think that's a good move because he's a high upside type player. That's what quarterbacks are getting paid in today's age. Brendan Stevens signing, I'm not too high on, but the Jets haven't really, really gone out and fully overpaid on anyone yet.
No, I mean, it's early. There's probably going to be a point that they do, but what do you expect? You're going to get Justin Fields for $5 million a year? I mean, he started in the league for 4 years. He's coming off a year where he didn't play a lot, but he won games. He's got a lot of upside. He's young, so $20 million is the going rate for like the middle of the pack quarterback. Starters are getting 40 to 50 plus, and people of his stature are getting 20. Stevens, I agree. Let's just hope Stevens isn't Tremaine Johnson. You don't want a part two there where you sign one of those quarterbacks who ends up being a total bust and it doesn't end up working out. So that's the one overpay, but otherwise I haven't seen an overpay yet for the Jets.
Now, Jake, the quarterback room, you spoke about, Justin Fields, Tyler. You think it's pretty much set. Do you think they draft a guy this year? You liking any of the developmental guys in one of the later rounds, whether it's a Dylan Gabriel, a Kyle McCord, a Will Howard? I know the whole dart dude movement, all that stuff. You like any of the quarterbacks this year? Do you think the Jets are pretty much staying pat with what they have? You can see them adding anything else?
I like McCord, but I don't think they should use one early on for like maybe 7th round. But to me, I think Jordan Travis deserves a shot. I know he has a chip on his shoulder. I was at the bar
you think he deserves the shot after what his agent said to the Jets about the Jets the other day?
Yeah, listen, I think he deserves a chance to play. Who cares what the agent? A lot of these agents are dumb. Let's be real. A lot of them say dumb things. Maybe the Jets did rush him. Maybe, they didn't treat him right. I don't know, but I want to see him. We haven't seen him. Why this guy, again, winner in college. He was a winner. Why can't I see what he's got in the tank? Versus, the agent trashed him. I haven't seen Jordan Travis say anything bad about the Jets. So, I would give him a shot. Yes, maybe 7th round. I'm not using a 3rd or 4th to take a quarterback. I just don't think you could do that next year. I think next year is the year to do it. I think Travis, and listen, Fields is here 2 years. He could be the guy for 2 years. You could end up saying Tyrod Taylor's the backup next year as well. So if you already have 2 potential quarterbacks for the next 2 years on the roster, I don't see using a mid-round pick on another quarterback before Travis even gets a rep in preseason. Let me see him in preseason at least.
I'll say this right now. If he is on the roster, I think we will see him in preseason. I just don't think there's any shot you're seeing him in the regular season. I don't think so. You have 2 quarterbacks ahead of it, and that whole rushing him back, I think that's BS, Jake, just because you look at the Jets' depth chart. They had Aaron Rodgers, who didn't miss a single snap due to injury. Behind him, you had a more than serviceable backup in Tyrod Taylor, and then you even had a guy like Adrian Martinez, who showed you some flashes in the preseason. Like, the fact that the Jets were, quote, rushing him back is scaring me. And there's a chance Jordan Travis doesn't take an NFL snap, and rightfully so. The injury that he's coming off of is gruesome, and we don't see many people recover from that injury. So, again, here's my mentality with Jordan Travis all along. You can't expect anything out of him. Everything you get out of him, you have to view as a bonus. That's my mentality with Travis.
Well, he got rid of Jets on all the social media, so maybe he is checked out of the Jets. I just would like to see him. I think he was really good in college. He had a gruesome injury, yes, but let me see what the kid's got before you use a mid-round pick on another quarterback. Because why just keep wasting picks? Like they've wasted so many picks on guys. Why just waste a pick on Jordan Travis and we never see him?
Appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash the like button and you are subscribed to the channel. It's completely free, helps us grow significantly. Follow Jake on all social media platforms at Jake Brown Radio, Mets Daily on YouTube, Jets Flight Club on YouTube. Jake's the best. Appreciate you all tuning in. Like I said, smash the like and subscribe. We're back tomorrow, 9 a.m. We have a ton of shows tomorrow. I think we have 3 planned shows tomorrow, not counting any breaking news. If there's breaking news tonight, so I'm off from school tomorrow, so we have 3 shows, but if there's any breaking news tonight,
why are you always off from school? You never go to school.
It's parent-teacher conferences, Jake.
Parent-teacher conferences? They got the whole day off. Back when I was a kid, that was a nighttime thing. Now they're doing the whole day.
Yep.
Teachers can't stay at night and do parent-teacher. They give you the whole day off. You're lucky because it's going to be 60 degrees tomorrow, too. I'll be outside tomorrow, but my God, you guys get every single day off. I can't believe it.
Indeed we do, and Jake, our Mets play at 1 p.m. tomorrow, so I'll be able to catch the spring training game.
Are they on TV? So. I feel like all these games. I don't
probably not
games on TV. I mean, I miss Gel. I like Gelbs. I like Gelbs a person. Yeah. I like Gelbs a sideline reporter. He's not good at play-by-play. But I'm sorry, Steve. We love you, and I run into him all the time. But he's not the best at play-by-play. But a lot of these games aren't on TV. I just don't get it.
Yeah. Hopefully the game's on TV tomorrow, but we'll be back 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jets insider Rich Cimini joins me, so stay tuned for that. Then we have an afternoon show with Antoine Staley of the New York Daily News. Then our nighttime show, 8 p.m. EST with Gunny Gumby of New York Jets Situation Report. Any breaking news, you guys know I'll be back on here, so you guys are the best. Appreciate you sticking with us. Jake, can't thank you enough for hopping on. Plug everything, and you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, you got a lot of reporters on from different publications. No, no reporters from a publication that I've been a part of, which is very intriguing. But we love Antoine.
SI?
Antoine, not them. No, another one.
Oh, all right. Wait,
we-
no. We
no,
had
not them.
Kazan. We had
Oh,
Kazan.
you have had Kazan. All right, my
Yeah.
old co-host. Antoine, we love. Yeah, Jake Brown Radio and all social. I do a lot of TikTok live streams. Mets Daily is doing pretty well. Mets baseball's coming up. I think I will do a Jets flight club probably tomorrow, reacting to quarterback stuff. And yeah, a lot of baseball coverage coming. Sports Illustrated Mets site. I write for them as well. So hopefully more jobs and more money and more things to do in the coming months. And the weather's getting brighter. Free agents are signing. This is the great part of the football offseason this week, where everyone names just start dropping. Where I was losing track. I was in New York out all weekend, and I was losing track and all the guys signing. And the trades. So let's hope the Jets get a couple receivers, Connor. Let's hope they improve that offense. And Justin Fields says, you know what? I'll take over this city and turn the Jets back into a winner. Let's go, Jets.
So we're about to end the show right now, which means the Jets will sign someone in about 2 minutes, and I'll be back on here. So I appreciate you guys sticking with us always. Smash the like. Subscribe. That'll do it for me tonight. For Jake, I'm Connor signing off. JTS, Jets.